How would you react if you walked into a place you built with your own hands, only to be denied service by the staff, simply because they thought you didn't belong there? Not because you were dressed strangely, not because you did anything wrong, but simply because you didn't look like someone important. This isn't a fictional story. It actually happened to a woman who once lived in her car, once washed glasses behind the bar, and was once told she wasn't good enough. But 12 weeks after that moment, she transformed the entire system from the inside out, turning the small dining table where she once sat quietly into a new symbol of dignity and understanding. This story isn't about power. It's about justice, born from silence and a twist no one saw coming. Stay with us until the end of the video, because once you find out who she really is, you'll never look at a regular employee the same way again. Marcus Holt sat at the far end of the QA pod on the 6th floor, his temporary ID badge crookedly clipped to a navy blue hoodie, an outfit that didn't belong to any director's office. The badge read Miles Reed, Systems Evaluation Specialist, a name he'd left behind years ago. But here, no one would question it. The sticker on his laptop was peeling at the corners. His shoelaces were frayed, as if he had walked through years unnoticed. Everything was designed to blend into the background, to disappear, and that's exactly what happened. No one looked up. No one cared. That was the first sign. The room carried an artificial silence, sporadic keyboard clicks, fluorescent lights casting a thin layer of pressure over the group. Brielle Dawson sat 3 desks away, quietly scrolling through test logs. She didn't notice him. Ryan Kim, across the aisle, was rubbing his wrist, a familiar gesture after long hours of debugging with no recognition. At the far end, Camilla Reyes adjusted her chair. No greetings, no glances. Only Kelsey Monroe gave a slight nod, brief, polite, and empty. None of them knew who he was, and that, in fact, was the reason he was here. He pulled out a worn black notebook and wrote 2 simple words: Ghost Space. That was his first impression walking into the pod, as if this corner had been forgotten by the company. No logos, no wall slogans, no leadership visits. Just the system, bitter coffee, and people who looked like they'd long given up hope of being seen. Camilla stared at her screen, her glasses reflecting a flickering code snippet. Her fingers typed quickly, not out of passion, but obligation. A loop error in the test case. She fixed it without a word. Kelsey leaned over slightly. Fixing that again? Camilla didn't answer. She just kept typing. Ryan opened a new ticket. Same bug from last week. Root cause never addressed. He clicked close, sighed, a sound too tired to be called disappointment. Brielle marked a case, paused and whispered, "We flagged this 4 months ago." No one responded, not because they didn't hear, but because they already knew the outcome. Flag it, no one reads it. Send an email, no one replies. The dashboard stays green, and green here means silence. Marcus wrote, "Green chart, red people." Moments later, the air changed, not dramatically but sharply, as if pressure had been sucked out of the atmosphere. Derek Lowell walked in. No door slam, no loud voice. He didn't need to. Tension followed him. Kelsey sat up straighter. Camilla quickly closed her terminal. Ryan looked down. Derek didn't greet anyone. He never did. "Dawson," he said. Brielle froze. "Why is QA holding the regression build?" Her voice was soft, clear, but uncertain. The rollback scenario failed on 3 builds. "It's always you," he interrupted. "You flag things no one else sees. Maybe the problem is your standards." No one reacted. Camilla stopped typing. Ryan glanced over. Kelsey stared at her keyboard like it was her last safe place. Brielle nodded, her jaw clenched. Marcus didn't write. He just watched and tightened the grip on his pen. At the vending machine afterward, Marcus stood next to Ryan. "You handled that well," he said. Ryan shrugged. "Silence is easier. He doesn't want solutions. He wants obedience." Marcus nodded. "I saw your bug report last week. Clear, concise." Ryan looked surprised. "Thanks. No one's ever said that." "I'm not no one," Marcus replied, then turned and walked away. Back at her desk, Brielle stared at her screen, the test suite still hanging. No fail, no pass. Just stuck. Camilla placed a cup of tea beside her. Said nothing. A quiet gesture of warmth. Derek walked by again. No glance. Didn't need to. His disregard was a form of dominance. Marcus wrote, "They fix broken systems, but to him, fixing errors is betrayal." At lunch, no one truly ate. The group sat at the corner table. Forks scraping, eyes on screens, notifications blinking untouched. "New metrics are live," Kelsey whispered. "They're tracking response time during meetings now," Ryan added. Camilla smirked. "So if I pause to think before speaking, I get penalized?" No one laughed. Marcus sat at the next table. They didn't notice. Not really. Not the way people notice someone important. Just another shadow in the room. But he wasn't watching their faces. He watched their posture, curved backs, downward gazes, as if they were used to bowing every day. He wrote, "You can't fix what people are afraid to speak." Later in the day, Derek called Brielle into the glass meeting room. Not private, everyone could see. "Your QA notes are too long," he said. She replied, "I thought detail would help." He leaned in. "Detail makes you feel important. It slows the team down." "They asked for context," she said quietly. "Sounds like a rookie excuse." He smiled. "You've been here long enough not to hide behind that?" Outside, Ryan stared at his blank screen. Kelsey stopped typing. Camilla whispered, "That's not feedback. That's a warning." Marcus didn't blink. He wrote, "Feedback uplifts. Warnings control." When Brielle returned to her desk, she said nothing. Just opened the test suite. Waited. 10 minutes. Didn't type a word. Camilla slid her a sticky note. "Step back. Breathe." She didn't move. Ryan opened her branch, scanned the test logic. "You're right," he said softly. "Rollback will break." Kelsey heard it. Camilla, too. Marcus already knew. He wrote, "No one sees her. It's not a performance issue. It's a management flaw." When the stand-up meeting began, Derek held his pen like a blade. "QA reports first." No smile. Brielle reported clearly, concisely. He interrupted. "Too much. Just say pass or fail." She went silent. Camilla clenched her jaw. Ryan looked away. Kelsey didn't react. Derek turned to Ryan. "You," Ryan replied with 3 words. Derek nodded. "See? That's how you do it." It wasn't praise. It was deliberate contrast. Marcus wrote, "He doesn't coach. He divides. The problem isn't her. It's his ego." After the meeting, Camilla quietly committed Brielle's test patch, under Brielle's name. No announcement. Kelsey left a thumbs-up emoji, then deleted it. Ryan walked by, tapped Brielle's desk. She looked up. For the first time all day, her eyes weren't afraid. Marcus wrote, "They build each other in silence, a survival culture growing in the cracks of fear." Brielle received an email from Derek. "QA process concerns. No greeting, just bullet points. Too wordy, distracting. Reconsider how your communication impacts team morale." She read it, closed it, reopened, then closed again. Ryan walked past, saw her expression, didn't ask, just left a granola bar on her desk, without a word. Marcus wrote, "She performs excellently, but looks like she's hiding it. Silence isn't laziness, it's strategy." The dashboard sat in the center of the third-floor conference room, large, bright, dominating the entire far wall. One side displayed QA metrics. The other showed sprint velocity from recent cycles. Green covered most of the graphs, blinking like the proud gaze of someone who once designed this system from its earliest days. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, still Miles Reed in the eyes of others. No one in the room knew the CEO was looking at what used to be his pride and joy, and none of them realized his heart was slowly sinking as he read the headline in the top right corner. Stable, aligned, performing, concise, efficient, dishonest. Derek was presenting. His speech was steady, emotionless, as if the numbers were irrefutable evidence of exceptional leadership. QA is currently stable. Regression is almost never blocked. Sprint velocity is meeting expectations. Feedback from other engineering teams is very positive. He paused, then turned to the QA group seated at the side table. Brielle nodded silently. Camilla took notes. Ryan looked at the statistics as if they were written in a foreign language. Kelsey twirled her pen, eyes evasive. Marcus glanced at his notebook and wrote, "They're standing in fire, yet it's called peace." Camilla glanced at Brielle when Derek mentioned a critical error from the last sprint that QA failed to catch early. Everyone knew the issue stemmed from an undocumented build. Yet in the report, QA took the blame. Camilla leaned in. "That was supposed to be flagged by Dev." Brielle responded with a quiet look. They both knew better than to challenge that during a company-wide meeting. Derek continued, "QA needs to be more proactive, not just wait for bugs to land in their lap." Marcus watched each expression. He wrote, "When silence is rebranded as productivity, courage becomes the problem." The meeting ended. People stood up one by one. Derek exited quickly, not looking at anyone. Camilla turned to Marcus, speaking to Miles for the first time. "What did you think of the sink?" Marcus smiled lightly. "Very green." Camilla laughed, a short, humorless laugh. "Yeah, green looks best when it's scrubbed clean off the reports." She wasn't addressing anyone in particular, but everyone heard. That evening, Camilla stayed behind after everyone else had gone. The overhead lights cast a cold glow across her keyboard. Marcus happened to walk by. She was rereading all the test reports from the past 3 sprints. "What are you looking for?" he asked. Camilla didn't look up. "Proof." "Proof of what?" "That what we flagged was acknowledged, but never acted on." Marcus paused, then asked after a few seconds, "Does it help?" Camilla closed her laptop. "Number. But at least I know I'm not imagining things." The next day, Ryan found a minor bug in the payment simulation system. He reported it properly, following protocol. No one responded. A day passed. Still unread. He pinged the number Q-Notes channel. Derek replied after 7 hours. "Doesn't look critical. Don't disrupt the process over trivial stuff." Camilla messaged Ryan privately. "I saw that bug last week. It crashes the rollback if you input a negative number." Ryan typed back, "Then why haven't we fixed it?" Camilla, "Because no one wants to look." Marcus sat in the corner of the room, watching Ryan quietly close the test case tab, holding a half cup of cold coffee. He wrote, "When bugs are called annoyances, the one who finds them becomes the obstacle." At the afternoon meeting, Derek announced a new feature, assigning primary accountability for each test failure. "From now on, whoever flags a bug owns it to the end. We need accountability." Brielle asked softly, "Even if the root cause is from another team?" "Especially then," Derek replied. "That's when QA must be most proactive." No one said anything more, but Camilla's eyes said enough. Marcus wrote, "The new system doesn't fix bugs. It allocates blame." That night, Brielle received a JIRA notification. A ticket she'd opened last month was closed by the front-end team without resolution. In the resolution reason, it read, "QA misunderstanding, working as intended." She reopened the test suite, reran the input scenarios. The bug was still there. She considered reopening the ticket, but instead, left it. Kelsey, seated nearby, saw her screen frozen on that status. "Are you going to reopen it?" Brielle stared straight ahead. "If I reopen it, they'll just close it again. If I leave comments, I'll be told I'm overcomplicating. If I'm right, I'll be labeled disruptive." Kelsey didn't respond. She just said, "I don't think that ticket was intended. I think it was intended to be forgotten." Marcus wrote, "When errors are officially justified, who still believes in correction?" Ryan submitted a pull request for a small fix. It extracted logic from a test Camilla had written last month, refined, more compact. When Derek merged it, he commented, "Ryan's initiative, smart reuse." Camilla didn't react, but Marcus saw her eyes linger on the code snippet. He wrote, "Credit has a direction, and it never flows down." That afternoon, the team gathered to review anomalies in the latest build. Camilla discovered a discrepancy in the processing time logic. It affected overall system performance. She didn't flag it immediately. She messaged Brielle privately, "Rollback batch test has a timing error." Brielle replied, "You should flag it." Camilla, "No, you do it. They still listen to you less." Brielle hesitated, then submitted the report. An hour later, Derek replied, "Thanks, Brielle. Quick catch." Camilla kept typing. No emoji, no thumbs up. Marcus wrote, "Sometimes work doesn't need to be stolen. It just needs to be redistributed quietly." The next day in the internal newsletter, Derek sent out the sprint summary. "Thanks to Ryan for refining the regression module. Kudos to Kelsey for thorough QA monitoring. Acknowledgement to Brielle for spotting a key discrepancy." Camilla was not mentioned, even though she was the first to catch the bug. She closed the email without saying a word. Marcus observed and wrote, "When the chart stays clean, who cares about the one holding the broom?" Later that day, an intern from another department visited the QA pod to ask about a test script. Camilla enthusiastically explained, from the first line to the final flow. The intern quietly said, "I didn't know you wrote this script." Camilla smiled. "It's okay. Nobody else knows either." Marcus stood 3 meters away, not interrupting. He added one last line to his notebook. "Green charts are the color of perfection, but people are always red, the color of blood, of exhaustion, and of things no one wants to see." The regular Wednesday morning meeting began with the usual monotony: engineering team velocity charts, updates from DevOps, and a slide deck too polished to reflect any actual truth. Derek stood in front of the screen as always, the light from the projector casting his shadow across the green numbers. "QA will update last, as usual," he said, then gave a quick glance toward Brielle, but didn't call her by name. Just said QA, a label, a sub-branch in the hierarchy of functions. Camilla rolled her eyes. Ryan checked the time. Kelsey was replying to messages on her laptop, but still kept one ear tuned in. Marcus, still Miles, sat quietly on the edge of the room, motionless, but his eyes tracked every blink, every micro-expression. Brielle sat upright, hands on the table, ready to present the critical bugs found in the latest payment build. She began, "During yesterday's rollback test—" "Hold on," Derek cut her off immediately, turning back to the screen. "Before we get into that, I want to show everyone an interesting chart." The next slide appeared, a line graph labeled "Issue Resolution Time" by department. QA sat at the bottom, a thin, dragging line stretched across multiple quarters. "QA is clearly the bottleneck," Derek said, voice calm but sharp enough to freeze a room. "We need QA to report faster, respond quicker." Brielle pressed her lips together. She didn't return to what she was saying. No space was left for her to continue. Camilla, sitting beside her, said nothing, but her grip on her pen tightened. Marcus lowered his head, didn't write. He thought one thing: interrupting someone mid-sentence is never just an accident. It's the easiest way to make a person question whether their voice even matters. After the meeting, Brielle stayed behind in the room. She stood in front of the whiteboard, not yet erased, staring at the bullet points from other departments. None of them belonged to her. Camilla walked in, handed her a glass of water. "You should have finished the rollback update," she said. Brielle replied, "I know." But there was no one to speak to. Camilla exhaled. "Do you think it was intentional?" Brielle didn't answer. Marcus passed by, paused for a few seconds as if adjusting his watch, long enough to hear. He wrote in his notebook, "Silence is programmed through repeated interruptions." That same day in the Number Daily Updates channel, Derek sent a short message. "Thanks, Ryan, for catching that data discrepancy. Impressive turnaround." No mention of Brielle, who first discovered the bug. No mention of Camilla, who had confirmed it. Ryan just read the message in silence. Marcus messaged Ryan privately. "You're the one who fixed it, yes. But were you the first to spot it?" Ryan replied, "No. It was Brielle. She debugged it the night before." "Did you tell Derek?" Ryan typed, then deleted. Typed again. Deleted again. Finally responded, "No one speaks up here, not for lack of truth, but because truth has a price." Camilla was assigned to test a new module from the back-end dev team. Deadline was tight. Documentation unclear. The result, a flood of errors landing on QA. Kelsey whispered, "These bugs aren't on us." Camilla answered quietly, "I know, but the system doesn't ask where bugs come from, only who they belong to." Marcus sat from afar, eyes never leaving the Jira board. He wrote, "Here accountability isn't traced, it's poured downward." The next day, Brielle attended a product meeting. For the first time in weeks, she was invited directly to present issues in the user flow. Her slide was simple, clear, backed by actual log data. But when she began to suggest rearranging actions in the checkout flow to prevent overwrite errors, Derek interrupted. I don't think QA needs to propose product solutions. QA's job is to find bugs. No one in the room objected. No one said a word. Brielle nodded, then sat down. Her hand trembled slightly. Marcus noticed and wrote, "A voice isn't silenced by shouting over it, but by nods pretending to agree." That afternoon, Derek sent an email to the entire team titled, "Culture Check-In. Are we listening enough?" The first line, "Please share if you ever feel your voice is being overlooked." Brielle opened the email, then closed it. No reply, no deletion, just left it there. Kelsey whispered, "Is this an invitation or a trap?" Camilla replied, "Both. Depends on who dares to test it." Marcus heard everything. Wrote, "Nothing's more dangerous than a feedback invitation from someone who never listens." A day later, the team received client feedback, an urgent error in the payment process that had been flagged in the previous sprint but never fixed. The product team had dismissed the flag in the final build. QA had reported it. Brielle had flagged it. In the meeting, Derek said, "QA needs to be more thorough. We can't let customers find bugs first." Brielle looked directly at him. "I flagged this bug on the 7th last month. It was marked as non-critical." Derek didn't blink. "Then why didn't you raise it again?" Marcus immediately wrote, "Not repeating doesn't mean not knowing. It means learning that repeating won't help." After the meeting, Brielle stayed alone in the pod. The ceiling lights reflected off her dark screen. Camilla walked by, about to say something, but instead just placed a protein bar on her desk. No words. None needed. Ryan quietly sent a message. "You okay?" No response. Kelsey typed a few words, then deleted them. Marcus sat at the coffee counter, looking toward them as though the 5-meter gap was a border between two worlds. One side was the staff list, the other, the list of the unnamed. At the end of the day, a new member was introduced to the team, a product intern. Derek hosted a casual welcome meeting. Everyone sat in a circle. When it was time for introductions, Camilla said her name, short, direct. Ryan added a few jokes. Kelsey just nodded. Brielle almost spoke, but Derek cut in. "Let's move on." Marcus looked over, not with disapproval, but recognition. Recognizing what was being trimmed piece by piece in every meeting, every sentence, every silence. It wasn't just time. It was the right to exist out loud. He wrote on the final page of his notebook that day, "Some people are never fired. They're just erased from the list of those allowed to speak." The morning began like any other. The steady hum of the air filter, scattered keyboard tapping, and the lingering scent of stale coffee from the night before. But to Marcus, something felt different. Not within the system, but in the way those worn down by the system were beginning to stand beside each other. Not loudly, not rebelliously, but through acts so small they might seem meaningless, unless someone was paying attention. Camilla arrived early, opened her screen, reviewed the tickets marked low priority from the previous week. She didn't open chat, didn't announce anything, didn't expect praise. She simply fixed the overwritten test case from yesterday, a bug that the dev team should have owned, but QA still had to clean up. Brielle walked in not long after, holding a cup of hot tea, not for herself. She placed it beside Camilla's monitor without a word. Camilla looked up, nodded slightly. "No thank you. None needed." They understood each other in silence. Marcus sat at the far desk, observing. He wrote, "When the system rejects voices, people find each other through action." Ryan arrived late, holding a half-eaten sandwich. He looked a little worn out. He dropped his bag, powered up, and noticed one of his test suites had been optimized. The commit read, "Refactored by KM under RK module for rollback logic." KM stood for Kelsey Monroe. No explanation necessary. Ryan opened Slack, typed a few words of thanks, then deleted them. Instead, he sent a waving hand emoji. There was no reply, but there didn't need to be. Later, when Camilla opened the repository to work, she spotted a line of code with a comment. "Reused pattern from Reyes' script. Credit due." She paused, not because the code was extraordinary, but because it was the first time in months someone acknowledged her by name in an official commit. That comment came from Brielle. She didn't mention it, just left it there. Marcus saw it on the screen. He wrote, "Not everyone needs a spotlight, but everyone needs to know they haven't been forgotten." At the midweek meeting, Derek presented the next quarter's roadmap. Bright colors, smooth slides, and a velocity chart drawn as flat and steady as a fake heartbeat. When it came to QA, he spoke quickly. QA remained steady, no major blockers. Brielle was about to interject, to note that 3 critical bugs were being pushed to the next sprint due to lack of testing capacity. But she stopped, not out of fear, but because she knew she'd be interrupted. Camilla glanced over, seemed to understand, and opened a private chat. "Send me the summary." "I'll say it." Brielle typed quickly, sent it over. 2 minutes later, during Q&A, Camilla raised her hand. 3 rollback tickets are currently backlogged due to missing documentation from the product team. This impacts the regression schedule. Derek nodded. Noted. No one else knew those were Brielle's words, but everyone in QA did, and that was enough. Marcus wrote, "They passed the voice like a baton, like survival sneaking its way across a desert." That afternoon, Ryan discovered a bug related to user permissions in the staging environment. He flagged it on Slack, without waiting for approval, without asking permission. Derek saw it and messaged privately, "Next time, go through the team lead." Ryan replied, "No dev leads were online." There was no further response. But moments later, Kelsey sent a shield emoji to Ryan's message, a private symbol among the QA team to signal protection. No one outside understood its meaning, but they did, and that was enough. When Camilla updated the test suite, she added Brielle's name to the contributors section. No one asked her to. No one outside the team would even notice. But Brielle received a small system notification. She read it, then sent Camilla a debug log she had just cleaned. No explanation included. A technical nod. A form of thank you without saying it. Marcus sat at the far table, watching the screens light up and fade. He wrote, "They don't reclaim dignity through shouting. They reclaim each other through flashes in the dark." One day, Brielle received a message from Evan, the intern who had joined the previous week. "Could you help me understand the rollback test case? I asked Dev, and they said to ask QA. Brielle was busy, but she didn't ignore him. She sent a short document with clear notes and cited Camilla's original commit, along with comments from Kelsey. Evan replied, "I didn't realize QA did so much." Brielle didn't respond, just sent the eyes emoji, a soft jab, but real. A minute later, Ryan dropped into the internal chat and joked, "QA, the mystery team that works in the dark, fixes bugs in daylight, and gets blamed all day." Kelsey added, "And teaches Dev." Camilla posted a meme. Everyone reacted with a laugh emoji. Marcus looked over. No one laughed out loud, but the air was visibly lighter. He wrote, "A team doesn't need laughter. They need a reason to laugh." And today they had one. On Friday, as the QA team was wrapping up the sprint, Brielle created a draft branch on Git. Rollback refactor Dawson. No commits yet, just a name. But in that name, Camilla noticed, this was the first time Brielle dared to attach her real name to a public refactor. Not under the team name, not under the label QA experimental. Her actual name, Camilla pinged. "Looks clean." Ryan added, "Fast logic." Kelsey dropped a thumbs up. No praise, no applause. But no one took it away either. Marcus wrote, "A name is ownership, and once they dare to sign it, it means they're reclaiming themselves." At day's end, Derek sent out the sprint recap. "Thanks, everyone. Special shout out to Ryan for quick issue detection, Kelsey for documentation, QA overall for stability." No mention of Brielle, no mention of Camilla. But this time, Brielle didn't stay silent like before. She forwarded the recap to the QA team with a note. "Manual credit, since the system didn't have a field for it." No one replied, but Camilla updated the JIRA ticket description, refactored under Dawson logic. Ryan edited the README. Rollback stability improved by BD Insights. Kelsey adjusted the release note. Rollback issue resolved. QA traceback by BD. No one said it aloud, but everyone knew who had held the foundation. And this time, they didn't let the system erase her name again. Marcus looked at the JIRA board and saw BD logic appear more than once in the comments for the first time. He wrote, In broken systems, recognition doesn't fall from above. It is stitched back in, line by line, by the ones who had it stolen. Over the weekend, Camilla sent a small message to the QA group chat. Anyone want to grab lunch Monday? A simple question. In a team where no one ever suggested anything personal. Brielle replied, I'm in. Kelsey, me too. Ryan, I'll bring sandwiches. Marcus read the chat. He didn't reply, but he wrote one final line in that day's page. When trust returns, it doesn't make an entrance. It simply takes a seat at the table. Monday morning began with a message in the internal Slack channel. Shout out to Evan. Great initiative with new regression tool. Fast, modular, easy to integrate. The message was sent by Derek at 8:01 a.m., before most people had even arrived. The green text, standing out against Slack's gray background, felt like a deliberate statement placed at the start of the day, to make it clear who was being seen. Brielle was booting up her laptop when the notification appeared. She opened the tool, scanned through the lines, then looked down at the main script, a section all too familiar. She had drafted the original version of that tool 3 months ago, buried in a subfolder labeled Archive Experiment Brielle. No one had asked about it. No one had commented. When the time came to reuse it, it had been refactored. Her name was gone. The logic remained almost untouched. Only the credit line had changed. Camilla, sitting beside her, saw the message too. She leaned slightly. That tool's from Evan? Brielle didn't answer immediately. She just reopened the old repository and searched for the commit labeled Initial Rollback Modularization, BD. Date, 3 months ago. Camilla read it and sighed quietly. He probably didn't know it was yours. Brielle nodded but didn't smile. Probably. Marcus had been in early. He stood by the coffee station, far enough not to draw attention, close enough to catch Brielle's expression. Not angry, not disappointed, just hollow. He wrote in his notebook, the worst pain isn't the effort lost. It's watching someone else's name get the applause for what you built. In the QA group, no one said anything publicly, but the mood shifted. Ryan, who had reused that same script 2 weeks ago, messaged Evan privately. Hey, where'd you get that rollback tool? Evan replied quickly. Pulled it from Deviled, saw it in archive. Thought no one was using it. Ryan didn't reply. Kelsey sat at her screen, dashboard open, typing nothing for 15 minutes. At lunch, the QA team sat together as usual, but it was quieter. Ryan hesitated. Did Evan know that was Brielle's? Camilla shook her head. Probably not, but Derek did. Brielle didn't join the conversation. She was reading rollback test logs. Her fingers scanned each line, not to check for bugs, but as if searching for memory. Marcus wrote, not everyone needs recognition, but everyone needs not to be erased. That afternoon, Derek passed by the QA pod. Evan followed. That tool can handle that case? Derek asked. How much faster is the suite? Evan answered. About 35%. I skipped the secondary compatibility step. Camilla interjected. That step was kept to ensure staging environment compatibility. Evan paused. I didn't know. Brielle said quietly. I noted that in the old script comments. Evan turned, blinking quickly. You wrote it? Brielle nodded. Derek said nothing, just nodded and walked away. After Evan left, Ryan said softly, he didn't mean to. Brielle replied, I know. Then why do you look like someone just stabbed you? Brielle didn't respond. Camilla spoke instead. Because sometimes being forgotten is worse than being wrongly blamed. Marcus wrote, no one wants a spotlight, but no one wants to be buried in the dark either. The next morning during the internal QA meeting, Kelsey suggested, maybe we should create a clearer folder for experimental scripts. List author, date, and purpose. Ryan nodded. Kind of a change log for QA. Camilla added, also reasons for rejection or skipping, so if someone uses it later, they'll know whose work it was. Brielle said nothing, but there was a softening in her eyes. Marcus watched from the corner, seeing them reestablish ownership, not by demanding it from above, but by building it from below. He wrote, when the system doesn't log you, create your own journal. That afternoon, Derek emailed the entire engineering team. New regression tool now part of default testing pipeline. Great work by Evan. No one else mentioned. No added details. Brielle opened the email, then closed it. She went into the main repo and reviewed the latest commit. One line read, "Improve speed by skipping compatibility flags." She left a gentle comment. Flags were added for staging rollback detection. CBD script March 14th. A minute later, that comment was updated. Evan added, "Thanks to BD for initial logic." No announcement, no reply. But Brielle received the update email. She read it. Her eyes didn't leave the screen, but her hands slowly released the mouse. She didn't type anything else. Marcus wrote, "Sometimes an apology doesn't come in words. It comes in edits. Quiet, but it exists." That night, Brielle was the last to leave the office. Before heading out, she reopened the rollback refactor branch, renamed the folder from Archive Experiment Brielle to Rollback Core BD. She committed, logged out, left no notes, wrote no messages, but the name was there, and this time, no one erased it. Marcus arrived at the office earlier than usual. As he entered the QA pod area, he saw Camilla already at her desk, the screen glowing, but her fingers still. She was staring at a simple log file, eyes unblinking, as if trying to pierce through the numbers to find something that once existed. Marcus said nothing. He walked past as if he hadn't seen. Camilla didn't look up. That kind of silence was becoming the default communication in this place, not because people didn't care, but because they had learned that caring too comes at a cost. An hour later, Brielle arrived. She booted up her machine, reopened the rollback suite, and ran an old test case. No errors, no warnings, no changes needed. But she ran it again, 3 times in a row, as if searching for a reason to touch something that still worked inside a system that hadn't in a long time. When Ryan and Kelsey arrived, no one said good morning, not out of rudeness, but because silence had become the shared language. Marcus wrote in his notebook, "When a voice is worn down bit by bit, what's left isn't silence. It's the absence of a need to speak." At the regular Tuesday morning meeting, Derek presented a new slide deck titled Team Health Check, Survey Feedback. First slide, 80% of employees feel their work is recognized. Second slide, 75% say they can share opinions without fear of judgment. Camilla looked up at the screen, then back down. Brielle didn't look at all. Ryan closed his eyes for a few seconds, hands frozen on the keyboard. Kelsey flipped a page in her notebook, but wrote nothing. Derek turned to the QA group and asked, "Anyone want to share something?" No one responded. No hands were raised. No eyes looked up. Marcus wrote, "The silence here isn't fear. It's reflex, like calluses growing where burns used to be." After the meeting, Evan, the intern, walked into the pod to ask Ryan about a test suite that had frozen. Ryan answered curtly, "Not a QA issue, ask Dev." Evan hesitated. "I did. They told me to ask QA," Ryan repeated. "Not our issue." Evan backed away. Kelsey looked at Ryan. He didn't react. Camilla quietly said, "That was a bit harsh." Ryan replied, "Are you sure they're not just trying to dump this on us again?" Camilla didn't answer, but she didn't disagree either. An hour later, Brielle sat motionless in front of a new ticket from the product team. They were requesting QA to check navigation logic in the ordering flow, a bug that had already been flagged the month before and ignored. Brielle said nothing. She scrolled down, labeled it, "Review Pending," and closed the tab. Camilla glanced over. "You're not going to reply?" Brielle said quietly. "I wrote it clearly the first time. Every time I rewrite it, I'm just convincing myself that someone might listen this time." Marcus heard that. He wrote, "When you rewrite the same thing for the 5th time, you're no longer doing QA. You're writing a eulogy for your own opinion." At the end of the day, Kelsey walked past Marcus. She paused briefly and asked softly, "Do you feel like the air here's gotten stranger?" Marcus gave a faint smile. "Stranger how?" Kelsey looked toward Camilla's desk. "Like everyone's just trying to finish each task, without leaving a trace." He didn't answer right away. After she walked off, he wrote, "They don't want to stand out. They just want not to be noticed, because standing out means being dragged out of the dark and handled like a problem." The next morning, Derek sent out an internal survey. Honest, anonymous, feedback for management. Camilla opened the email, read every line, never clicked the link. Brielle saw it but simply marked it as read and kept working. Ryan forwarded the email to Kelsey with the note, honest, but not invisible. Kelsey replied, anonymous, but still called out in meetings. No one filled out the form. Marcus wrote, no one believes in surveys from someone who used to cut them off mid-sentence. On Thursday afternoon during a product meeting, Brielle was again asked to present a bug analysis. This time she had slides. She opened them, walked through each rollback error, concise with evidence and logs. When she finished, a product director said, maybe QA is overcomplicating this issue. She didn't reply. Derek chimed in. I think QA should keep feedback at the technical level. Let's avoid drifting into UX or architecture. Camilla turned to look at Brielle. Brielle remained silent, closed her laptop, not out of offense, but because the story was too familiar. That night, after everyone had gone, Brielle stayed behind. She opened the rollback test folder, reviewed each note she'd written. Some were clear, well-organized. Others were rushed, but filled with intent. She hit select all, then delete. No backup, no archive. Camilla walked in, saw what she was doing, didn't ask why, just said, I saved some of your snippets, in case you need them. Brielle nodded. Thanks, but I won't. Marcus stood outside, witnessing everything. He wrote, sometimes people don't delete out of anger. They do it to leave nothing behind for a place that never got their name right. The next day, as Marcus passed through the pantry area, he overheard a conversation between two interns. The QA pod looks so sad. Yeah, everyone just sits. No one talks. No one laughs. He didn't interrupt. He simply wrote, the silence isn't because they have nothing to say. It's because everything worth saying has already been labeled as disruptive. At the end of the day, Ryan submitted a new test case, adding parallel verification for rollback and payment retry. In the commit, he listed Brielle as co-author. Brielle opened the repo, saw the notification. She didn't comment, but she didn't delete it either. And to Marcus, that action said more than anything spoken in any meeting that week. Monday's meeting began with a slide. Retrospective sprint, open discussion. Bold font, white background. Lower corner clearly stating, all feedback welcome. But no one in the QA pod moved. Camilla sat upright, hands resting on the keyboard, but not touching it. Ryan stared at the previous sprint assignment board, as if waiting for someone to knock on the door of his brain, while Kelsey pretended to take notes, mostly to avoid eye contact with the head of the table. Only Brielle wasn't pretending. She sat still, eyes open, looking at no one, masking nothing. Her silence wasn't a shield. It was a declaration. Derek stepped to the middle of the room, marker in hand. We'll keep this light. Just share what didn't go well, what can be improved. No pressure. He said it in the same tone he always used, calm, polite, and dishonest. Marcus sat in the back, body slightly slouched like he was relaxed, but his pen was ready. He wasn't looking at the whiteboard. He was watching expressions. Expressions that made no sound but carried history. He wrote his first line. A question asked with fake curiosity is the most elegant form of threat. Anyone feel testing last week could have gone better? Derek asked, glancing toward QA. No one responded. No one shook their head. No one nodded. Camilla scribbled something in her notebook, then tore the page out and tucked it into her pocket. Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. Brielle stared directly at Derek, unblinking, expressionless, as if that void itself was the answer. Kelsey looked down at her own hands. Derek smiled. Nothing? Great. Let's move on. Marcus wrote again. A system has truly succeeded when it no longer needs to silence people, because they've already silenced themselves. At lunch, the QA team sat even quieter than usual. No one opened their lunch boxes first. No one checked their phones. Not because they weren't hungry, but because everyone was still digesting something heavier than food. Ryan broke the silence. That slide looked familiar, probably reused from last quarter. Camilla replied, I think it's from last year. No one laughed. Kelsey said softly, they ask, but only record what they want. Brielle said nothing. She stirred her cold tea, not for the flavor, but because the rhythm gave her some sense of control over something. That afternoon, Derek sent an announcement. This week we're launching Peer Praise Week. Please submit anonymous compliments for teammates doing great work. In the internal Slack channel, Ryan reacted with the eyes emoji. Kelsey replied, "Whoever compliments most gets watched most." Camilla said nothing, but in her private notes, she typed, "Every time collective positivity is encouraged, it comes with a new control mechanism." Marcus read it all, didn't interfere. He simply wrote, "A compliment that isn't free is just a quiet version of submission." The next day, Brielle received a calendar invite from Derek. No subject line. Duration, 15 minutes. Room, breakout room 3A. She didn't decline, but instead of preparing for a conversation, she compiled every rollback-related commit from the past 2 weeks. Not for defense, but because it was the only thing she could bring that couldn't be twisted. The meeting started with a question. "You've seemed a bit distant lately. Is there anything making you uncomfortable in the team?" Brielle replied, "No." Derek nodded. "I just want to be sure you don't feel unrecognized." She said again, "I'm fine." Not because she was fine, but because she knew if she told the truth, it wouldn't be used to fix anything. It would be used to spin. When she returned to her desk, Camilla didn't ask. Ryan didn't look up. Kelsey quietly asked, "You okay?" Brielle said, "I'm okay." But her eyes looked like someone had tapped a crack that had been there for years. Marcus watched from the corner of the room, writing, "The question isn't asked to listen, it's asked to confirm who's still obedient." That evening, the QA team reviewed the test systems before the next release went live. A small bug appeared sporadically. It only triggered if rollback ran under high load. Brielle was the first to spot it, but she didn't say a word. Camilla noticed something strange in the logs and pinged the group. "Anyone seeing timeout errors?" No one responded, not because they didn't know, but because if you said it, you owned it. And if you owned it, you'd be called on to defend it at next week's meeting. Ryan opened a draft ticket, then closed it. Kelsey messaged Brielle privately. "You see it?" Brielle replied with one word. "Yes," but no one flagged it. Marcus wrote, "When 5 people see a bug and no one mentions it, it's not the system that's broken. It's the people, programmed to back away." The next morning, the release went live with no bugs reported. In the recap, Derek said, "Good, no bugs flagged. That's a sign of stability." Camilla swallowed her words. Ryan looked down. Kelsey glanced at Brielle. Brielle didn't move. Marcus wrote, "When no bugs doesn't mean no problems, it means the organization has trained itself to perform perfection." By end of day, Derek posted in Slack, "Who wants to be sprint lead this week?" No one replied. The message sat there, silent. No emojis, no questions, no follow-ups. After 5 minutes, Camilla typed a sentence, then deleted it. Ryan started typing, "I can," and stopped. No one hit enter. After 10 minutes, Derek added, "No volunteers?" Still no response. Marcus stared at the Slack message. Not for its content, but for the white space around it. He wrote, "An unanswered question doesn't mean no one's capable. It means everyone's smart enough to know silence is the only way to survive." Jade Monroe didn't show up to the Monday morning meeting. For the first time in 13 consecutive weeks, her seat at the QA pod was empty. No message, no email, no sick leave status on the time tracking system. At 10:12 a.m., Brielle opened Slack and typed, "Is Jade okay?" No one replied. At 10:40, Camilla sent a private message. "I tried calling." No answer. Ryan said quietly, "Maybe she just needed a break." Kelsey whispered, "Maybe more than a break." Derek didn't mention the absence. During the planning meeting, he skimmed past the QA resources section as if Jade's name had never existed on the list. The only thing he said, "We'll need someone to absorb Jade's scope." No one spoke. No one asked. Brielle drew a single diagonal slash across a line in her notebook. Camilla bit her lip. Kelsey twirled her pen, then stopped completely. Marcus sat in the back. He didn't write right away. He waited. By the afternoon, everyone returned to their desks. Jade's chair remained empty, but her monitor was still on, frozen at the last session from the previous Friday. An unfinished commit line, not yet pushed. Brielle walked over and looked. The comment line read, trying to optimize the conditional path for, and then stopped. Camilla glanced through it. She was trying to streamline the parallel testing path. Brielle quietly closed the screen. Kelsey murmured, I don't think she's coming back. Ryan looked up. You sure? Camilla answered instead. People don't leave with a notice. They leave with exhaustion. Marcus wrote in his notebook, some departures don't have doors, just footsteps quietly leaving the frame. At lunch, the QA team sat together as usual, but the fifth seat was left untouched. Ryan placed his tray across from himself. No one touched it. No one sat in Jade's place. Camilla stared at the empty space on the table. Jade was the only one who ever raised her voice in a meeting. Brielle nodded. And the first to laugh when a rollout failed. Kelsey added, she made failure less frightening. Ryan looked down, and for that, they called her too emotional. No one added anything. No one disagreed. Marcus sat farther away, watching four people silently divide a space no one wanted to name. He wrote, they don't need a funeral. Just someone to remember that a person was once here. That afternoon, Brielle sent Jade a private message. You okay? No reply. Camilla followed up. No need to answer, but if you need anything, just type a single character. Jade's status remained offline. Kelsey added a photo in the team chat. Jade's desk, captioned only, still here. No emoji, no follow-up. Ryan typed 3 dots, then erased them. Derek, as usual, sent the sprint recap. Thanks, team, for stepping up. Great momentum. QA team adjusting well. No mention of Jade. Not a line, not a word. Brielle forwarded the email to the team and typed, adjustment is how people learn to forget. Camilla didn't respond. But in the new changelog, she wrote, path logic restructured, original proposal by JM. Ryan edited the config file and added Jade's name to the contributors section. Kelsey updated the README. Rollback parallelism idea credited to JM. No one said anything aloud, but everyone saw it. Marcus read each commit line and wrote, some names no longer appear, but they're still there like fingerprints on glass, visible only when you tilt your head. 3 days later, Jade's internal status changed to inactive. No announcement, no farewell. No one asked why. Brielle opened Slack and searched her message history with Jade. The last message from Jade read, might disconnect for a few days. Just need to breathe. Sent on Friday night. No one had seen it then. No one had asked. No one realized it was a goodbye. Camilla copied it into a personal note file. Kelsey printed it out and taped it to the back of her notebook. Ryan didn't save it, but opened it again every morning. Marcus wrote, she didn't leave. She just stopped at a point everyone else had passed but returned from. And this time, she didn't come back. Over the weekend, the QA team wrapped up the sprint with no replacement for Jade. When an error surfaced in the branch she left behind, Brielle fixed it but left the comment unchanged. Refactored from JM logic, no modification. Camilla submitted the commit, adding, legacy preserved. Ryan dropped a sticker in the chat, an image of duct tape over a heart. No one laughed, but no one muted notifications either. Marcus sat alone in the office after everyone had gone home. He looked over at Jade's desk. No one had cleared it. A dry teacup still sat there. A photo taped to the monitor's corner. A picture of a road through a forest, no people in sight. He wrote the final line in that day's notebook. Some absences need no send-off, but they leave behind a quiet so complete it makes every explanation feel unnecessary. Brielle arrived at the office at 8:52 a.m. Not early, not late. Just enough to avoid being noticed. Just enough to not seem distant. She sat at her desk, powered up her machine, opened a repo, pressed a familiar key combination, then stopped. Not because of an error, but because her mind had nothing left to add. No questions, no concerns, no direction forward. Just a series of repeated actions, like her hands were still at work, but the rest of her wasn't there anymore. Camilla came in afterward, nodded hello. Brielle nodded back. No words. Ryan did the same. Kelsey pulled out her chair. The QA team began the day like reduced versions of themselves. Less emotion, fewer glances, more motion. Derek passed by the pod, paused briefly and said, "Nice work on the sprint test cases, Brielle." She replied, "Thanks." No smile, no eye contact, no note taken. Derek walked on. Ryan turned to her. "You okay?" Brielle said, "Still functioning." Marcus sat from afar. He watched how Brielle answered, not with words, but by typing a line, deleting it, then retyping the exact same line, as if rewriting what was already correct was the only way she could remind herself that she still existed. He wrote, "She's still here, but only the shell." In the sprint meeting, Derek shared results from the internal survey. QA team scored 9.1 on delivery consistency, highest across all functions. No one in the team reacted. Camilla glanced at Brielle. She didn't move. Ryan pressed his pen so hard into his notebook that it left an imprint. Kelsey looked away. Derek asked, "Anyone want to share the secret behind this consistency?" Still, no one spoke. Marcus looked at Brielle. She didn't turn away, but neither did she look forward. Her gaze seemed to pass through the room, through the system she had once tried to fix, and now only wished to escape. At lunch, the team sat together, but no one finished their meal. Camilla cut an apple in half and handed a piece to Brielle. She took it, bit off a small piece, chewed slowly, then set it down. "No taste," she said quietly. Kelsey asked, "Since when?" Brielle replied, "I don't remember, but long enough that it doesn't feel strange anymore." Marcus wrote, "Burnout isn't when you collapse. It's when your taste disappears and you keep eating like everything's normal." That afternoon, Brielle was assigned to retest a logic that had been flagged 3 times before. She didn't ask why it was back, didn't question why it still hadn't been fixed. She simply reopened the file, checked the conditions again, ran one round. No notes, no suggestions, no warnings. She sent an email. "No issue found. Test passed under current spec." She CC'd no one. Camilla saw it and asked softly, "Are you sure you're not flagging it?" Brielle replied, "Sure, because if I flag it, it'll be like the last 3 times." Ryan whispered, "But maybe this time is different." Brielle answered, "They say that every time." No one said anything more. Marcus wrote, "When someone stops questioning, it's not because they believe. It's because they're tired of being doubted." A day later, Derek pinged Brielle on Slack. "Can you do a quick one-on-one today?" She replied, "My schedule's full." He said, "Just 10 minutes." She wrote, "Okay." The meeting took place in a small breakout room. Derek began, "You seem a little different lately. Still performing well, but quieter." Brielle said, "Still meeting deadlines." He nodded, "Yes, but I'd like to understand how you're feeling. About the team, about the work." She looked him directly in the eyes, unblinking. "No feelings worth reporting." He paused, then said, "If something's bothering you, please speak up." She smiled faintly. "If I did, would you change anything?" He fell silent for a moment. "I'd take note." She stood. "Then I'll wait until I feel something worth noting," and walked out. No apology, no door closed. Marcus stood in the hallway, close enough to hear. He wrote, "Silence isn't avoidance. It's when you know every word will be extracted with no reply." That week, Brielle worked steadily, made no errors. But in every ticket she handled, there were no notes, no explanations, no guidance, just pass or fail. Every log file she submitted was clean, no descriptions. Camilla asked, "You're not adding comments anymore?" She replied, "Comments for who?" Ryan joked, "For the future, to show we tried." Brielle said, "I don't want to lie to the future." Marcus read the logs and added, "She doesn't work for the system. She works like a machine once trained to understand, but now only knows how to run." On Friday, the QA team was invited to a town hall feedback with senior leadership. Everyone attended. A facilitator asked, "If you could change one thing, what would it be?" Ryan stayed silent. Camilla looked down. Kelsey wrote a few lines, then erased them. Brielle tapped her pen on the table, then wrote 3 words on the paper. "Nothing left anymore." And she put the pen down. She didn't submit it, didn't speak, didn't leave the room. Marcus looked at her, looked at the team, looked at a room so quiet it seemed like everyone had stopped breathing. He wrote, Sometimes the deepest silence isn't resistance. It's the completion of withdrawal. On Monday morning, Brielle opened her laptop and accessed the main repository of the payment system. There was a new update in the core rollback folder. She opened the file and read every line. Every line of that code was hers. Written one night 2 months ago when the release encountered an endless loop error. When no one on the team could identify a solution, she had rewritten the conditional logic to allow the rollback to complete cleanly when a payment hung. She placed that piece in a temporary folder named Rollback Sandbox BD. No official commit, just saved temporarily. A week later, she was transferred to another team, and now that code had appeared in the main branch, clean, polished, with new annotations, and credited to someone else. The name shown, refactored by Evan. Not a single line mentioned the original. Not a single line bore the initials BD. Camilla walked over and saw her staring at the screen. "What is it?" Brielle tilted the screen toward her. Camilla read it and whispered, "This is yours." Brielle nodded. "It's mine." "Have you told anyone?" "No." "Do you plan to?" Brielle looked directly at the code file and said, "No." Camilla was silent for a few seconds, then asked, "Why not?" Brielle said, "Because they'll say I didn't commit it. Because they'll say the other person had the right to edit. Because if I say anything, they'll just add my name below as a kind of consolation. And I don't need consolation anymore." Marcus sat at a distance, eyes never leaving Brielle's posture, not bowed, not angry, not tearful, but calm like someone whose emotions had been sanded down. He wrote in his notebook, "She no longer needs credit," because she no longer believes that her name is something that can still be held on to. All that day, across internal channels, Derek sent out praise for Evan. "Great initiative on stabilizing the rollback module. This unlocks a new level of QA autonomy." Ryan read it and said nothing. Kelsey forwarded the message into the QA group with a single line. "He just unlocked something she wrote." Camilla added, "And she didn't need a key." Brielle read it, but didn't respond. No expression, no emoji. No one blamed her, because they knew, eventually everyone reaches a point where hurt no longer registers. That afternoon in the sprint update meeting, Derek presented a new slide. Rollback module. Optimized, streamlined, peer praised. No one asked who peer praised it. No one asked where the module came from. Marcus looked at the slide, then at each person's eyes. Camilla was pretending to take notes. Ryan was doodling on the edge of his notebook. Kelsey was adjusting her phone case. Only Brielle wasn't pretending. She looked directly at the slide as if through a frosted window, where she had once existed. Marcus wrote, "Some slides don't need to lie, because the truth was cut out before it had the chance to appear." After the meeting, Brielle received a message from a back-end engineer. "Thanks for the original rollback path. Evan mentioned you were the first to try it." She read it, didn't respond right away. An hour later, she replied, "It's fine. At least it runs." The engineer sent back a emoji. Nothing more. Brielle closed the chat window. Didn't save the conversation. The next day, Derek organized a session called Recognition Sync, where each member was encouraged to acknowledge a colleague. Ryan typed, "Props to Camilla for maintaining the suite." Kelsey typed, "Shout out to Ryan for helping debug." Brielle typed, then deleted. Typed again, then deleted once more. Finally, she wrote, "Camilla kept the QA system alive." No one saw that praise because she sent it privately, not publicly. Marcus wrote, "She still knows who deserves recognition, but no longer believes that recognition will change anything." That evening, Brielle was the last to leave the office. Before shutting down, she reopened every forgotten commit in the auxiliary branches. She read each segment, not editing, not renaming files, not reorganizing folders. She only added one line to the final README. "This logic started somewhere else, from someone you didn't ask." Then she closed it, didn't push, didn't notify. No one knew except her. And Marcus, who had been sitting far off, reading the quiet movements of that night like someone listening to the final heartbeat of a flame. He wrote in his notebook, "Effort doesn't need to be stolen. It only needs to go unnamed. That's enough for it to vanish from the system, but still exist somewhere, like the shadow of someone who no longer wishes to be seen." On Monday morning, when Marcus opened his laptop and accessed the internal management page, Something small yet strange appeared first. In the QA team list, the name Brielle Dawson was gone. No note saying on leave, no inactive status. Just gone. The name column had automatically shifted upward, as if the system had realigned itself from the beginning. Marcus said nothing. He did what he did every day, opened his notebook and wrote one line on the first page. She didn't quit. She was erased. Camilla arrived next, sat at her usual spot, turned on her machine. Ryan and Kelsey followed. No one asked, no one spoke about the absence. No one asked, where's Brielle? No one said, haven't seen her today. Not because they didn't care, but because everyone had already felt the disappearance beforehand and had prepared not to make it louder by putting it into words. Camilla opened an old test suite, planning to rerun it. An error popped up. Referenced user not found. She clicked into the log. The note inside read, author, unknown user. She tried to open an old commit from the previous month. The records that had Brielle's name now only showed an empty ID. Kelsey stood up and looked at her screen. System reset the log? Camilla didn't respond. Marcus got up from his desk and moved closer. Not a reset. A removal. Ryan chimed in from behind. We still have local backups. Camilla whispered. We don't need them anymore. Marcus continued writing. They don't call it erasing a person. They call it data restructuring. But the result is the same. Every trace is wiped clean. By midday, an email from HR was sent to the entire company. We welcome 3 new team members and thank all colleagues for their contributions this past quarter. No name of anyone who had left. Not a single word about Brielle. In the contributor list for the rollback project, a new name had been added, E. Moraine. Evan. No one objected. No one confirmed. In the Slack group, conversation continued as if nothing had happened. Camilla opened a piece of old test logic that Brielle had written. One small line of code still carried a note. Ensure rollback condition doesn't freeze on cross-transaction. She added a comment below. Logic still works. Author, BD, now anonymous. Kelsey saw it, said nothing. But she opened her own backup repo and searched for the copy she had saved. Her file still retained the author tag. Ryan sent Camilla a private message. Do you have the file staging test case legacy? Camilla replied. Yes, but best to leave it. Ryan didn't respond again. Marcus watched each of them. He didn't hear any voices, but he saw small movements, fingers typing slower, eyes drifting when reading commit lines, shoulders slouching as if no spine remained to hold them upright. He wrote, the broken key in the system doesn't scream. It makes no sound. But when pressed, nothing responds. The next day, Derek appeared in the full team meeting. His tone was flat, routine. We're doing well. QA has adapted quickly. We've seen improved team morale and reduced latency. Camilla sat still. Kelsey looked down. Ryan doodled on the edge of his notebook. No one asked anything. No hands were raised. Marcus looked at them, then turned to the projector screen, where only charts remained. No people. Derek added, next week we'll roll out a peer recognition bot. Everyone, please acknowledge those who've helped you. Camilla typed a line, then erased it. Kelsey wrote Ryan, then closed the tab. Ryan didn't open the survey link. Marcus wrote, no one acknowledges someone who has vanished, because to name her would be to admit that she once existed. That afternoon, Camilla submitted a patch. In the notes she wrote, adapted from previous rollback structure, integrity intact. No names given, nothing more written. Kelsey updated the test plan, writing, source logic, prior implementation, no longer traceable. Marcus read every line. No one mentioned Brielle, not because she didn't deserve it, but because to say her name would mean confronting what no one dared to touch. The truth that a human being could be erased from collective memory without a single voice raised in protest. That night, Marcus stayed late alone. He reopened the system logs. All comments related to Brielle now only displayed unknown user. But the logic still ran. The test commands still passed. The code still functioned as if the person who wrote it had never existed. He wrote the final line in his notebook for that day. A system so perfect that it keeps running after killing its creator is the most terrifying kind. Monday marked the beginning of a new quarter. The office had been reset like a stage with a fresh backdrop. On the notice board, a new banner was pinned. Welcome Q3, reset, refocus, recognize. Camilla read that line twice and saw nothing new. Ryan walked in wearing the same old hoodie, silent as ever. Kelsey still carried the same notebook used for nothing but jotting down meeting session names. Everything looked like nothing had ever happened. And yet something had changed. Not visible, not concrete, like a thread cut midair. Not falling, just no longer there. Marcus still came in early, but he didn't open his notebook right away. He sat for a long time, staring at the spot that used to be Brielle's desk, now cleared out, old keyboard replaced, machine reformatted, username reassigned to Q attempt 007. No one sat there, but the chair still tilted slightly to the right, like the habit of someone who had spent long hours leaning that way. Marcus didn't adjust it. He left it as is. By midday, a sudden team meeting was called. Derek walked in and announced, "We'll be doing some light restructuring in the QA process. Please be flexible with your roles." His tone remained the same, brief, cold, clinical. No one asked questions. No hands were raised. Not a single face showed objection. Pens kept moving. Heads kept nodding. Marcus looked around, then slowly raised his hand. No one laughed. No one looked surprised. It was just that no one had ever raised a hand in meetings like this. Derek hesitated for a second. "Yes, Marcus." Marcus kept his hand raised for a few more seconds before lowering it. He didn't stand. He didn't change his tone. He simply asked one question, loud enough for everyone to hear. "And those who built this system, where are they now?" Silence. No one spoke for the first 30 seconds. Not a soul. Ryan blinked twice. Kelsey tightened her grip. Camilla turned to look at Marcus. Derek furrowed his brows. "That question isn't very clear." Marcus kept his gaze steady. "I just want to know, in the system we're building, is there still room for people whose names have been removed from every task sheet, every commit file, every slide deck?" Derek replied, "We work as a team. Contributions are collective." Marcus followed up. "Then why, when there's a bug, do we assign blame to individuals? And when there's a win, do we choose a person to praise?" A voice rang out from the back of the room, soft but sharp enough to slice through the stiffness. "She didn't disappear. She was made to disappear." Everyone turned around. It was Camilla. Her eyes didn't blink. Her hand rested firmly on the table. Ryan lowered his head. Kelsey stared at Camilla, as if suddenly remembering something she'd been trying to forget. Marcus said nothing more. Derek clenched his jaw, then stated, "Let's move on with the meeting." But it could no longer move on in the same way. After the meeting, no one returned to their desks as usual. Kelsey walked to the empty desk, Brielle's desk. She didn't sit, just gently touched the corner of the table. Ryan joined her. "Do you still have the old test suite?" Kelsey nodded. "I do." Marcus came closer and said quietly, "We can't tag her name on Slack, but we can call the exact function she once wrote." Camilla added softly, "And this time, we leave the comment in." Ryan asked, "Anyone still got the old Q1 performance report?" Kelsey smiled faintly. "I think I know where it is." No one needed to say it aloud, but everyone understood. A part of this system was built by someone they were no longer allowed to mention, and they, the ones who remained, would not let her vanish again. That night, Marcus returned to his desk. He opened his notebook again. On the final page, he wrote the last line. "Some people leave in silence, but some silences, when broken at the right moment, can open up an entirely new system. Some people leave a company without anyone opening the door for them. No nameplate, no thank you note. They just disappear as if they never existed. But the systems they helped build continue running, keeping entire operations smooth and steady, day after day, hour after hour. And maybe, just maybe, you, the one watching this video, have also been one of those invisible people. If you've ever felt like your name was never called, if you've ever stayed silent, afraid the system couldn't handle one honest question, then today know this: you are not alone. This story is for you, and for anyone who believes that silence should not be the price of being allowed to exist. Leave a comment below. I was once forgotten. Or, I won't let anyone be erased again. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story that makes you feel seen, understood, and no longer silent. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it. Because sometimes one short video is enough to help someone find their voice.